Hello, it's Dr. Rhonda Johnson, and today is Thursday, January 21st, 2021. Boy, January's going by fast, isn't it? Today I'm going to be talking about two new COVID-19 vaccines that will be probably reviewed by the Food and Drug Administration for the Emergency Use Authorization Program in the next couple of weeks. But first, it was just 1 year ago yesterday that the first case of the coronavirus was documented in the U.S. And here we are 1 year later. This pandemic is probably the most important issue in our nation and for many parts of the world. Here we have over 25 million documented cases of infection. And remember, that's an undercount, folks. And probably more than 406,000 deaths. But the good news is that there have been 31 million doses of the Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccine doses available, and over 17 million of those shots have gone in the arms of people here in the United States. And worldwide, 41 million doses of these COVID-19 vaccines have been administered. So we have a long way to go, but there continues to be hope that we can get this pandemic under control. So here we go. I'm going to move into talking about the two COVID-19 vaccines that may be available in the next couple of months. Now, one is being manufactured by the pharmaceutical giant Johnson & Johnson. The other one is being manufactured by AstraZeneca, another pharmaceutical giant. And AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine is already being used in 3 countries around the world: the United Kingdom, India, and Mexico. Now, why am I even bothering to talk about this? Because these vaccines are very different than the current 2 messenger RNA vaccines, the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine. So what is different? And I want to caution you by saying these vaccines are similar to the one that the Russians are using, and they call their COVID-19 vaccine the Russian Sputnik COVID-19 vaccine. So here we go. Vector vaccines. Vector vaccines contain a weakened version of an inactivated virus, meaning it's a different virus than the one that causes COVID-19, but it does have the genetics material from that spike protein of the SARS-CoV-2 virus inserted in it. And again, it's called a viral vector because it's used to transport the COVID-19 spike protein into our cells. Now, these viral vectors do not contain live virus. They are not going to give you either a COVID infection or a viral infection. Once they're inside the cell, they tell our cells to make copies of these spike proteins, and this prompts our immune system to recognize these spike proteins, memorize them, form antibodies, and hopefully when our bodies see the real COVID-19 virus, mount an incredible immune defense so that we don't get sick. Okay, that's the high-level overview. Again, I'm not trying to make you all vaccine scientists, and I do want to pause and just say I don't work for any vaccine company. I'm not a virologist. I'm not a vaccine researcher. But in my years of pediatric practice, I administered many vaccines to children and adolescents and adults. And I've had many, many, many vaccines myself. Okay, so what are these modified viral vectors? The AstraZeneca vaccine uses a common cold modified virus that infects chimpanzees. Now, these are not chimpanzee cells. This is a modified cold virus, common cold virus, that infects chimpanzees. And then the Johnson & Johnson uses a modified human common cold virus, one that's known to infect humans already, but it's been genetically modified so it cannot replicate. Again, both of these viral vectors are modified, weakened, cannot replicate. They are not live viruses. They have the ability to enter the cells, but they cannot reproduce once they get inside. So what is an adenovirus? Adenoviruses are common cold viruses. They cause, cold-like symptoms. You know what that is. But again, they are genetically altered. What do they do once they get inside the cells, folks? They give instructions for the cells to make that coronavirus spike protein, which stimulates an immune response. Is this new technology? Well, they've used this technology for other vaccines, the Ebola vaccine, the Zika virus vaccine, and the HIV vaccine. Although we don't have a current effective vaccine for HIV because the virus keeps mutating. But again, these adenovirus vector vaccines have viruses have been used to make these vaccines. Are there side effects to this vaccine? Well, I'll talk more about that later. But again, the symptoms that you've heard about for the messenger RNA vaccines that show that our immune system is being primed. The cold-like symptoms, headache, body aches, pain at the injection site, soreness, and fever. Again, when your immune system is invoked, that's what happens when you get COVID. You get this immune system inflammatory response that seeks to destroy and attack what our bodies recognize as foreign. So the vaccine is doing what it's supposed to do when you have these side effects. Okay, what's the advantage to these type of vaccines, these vector virus vaccines? Well, they're much less fragile than the messenger RNA vaccines made by Moderna and Pfizer. They can stay stable in a normal refrigerator, and they last longer for up to 3 months. They're also cheaper. They cost less per dose. So when will we see these vaccines? Well, again, maybe by May, June or so. They have to go before the FDA, and their safety profile has to be reviewed by the independent experts that review these, sit on these advisory panels and review this data. And that generally takes 2 to 3 weeks for the advisory panel experts to review all the vaccine data. Now, federal government buys up these doses. Our government signed $1 billion contract with Johnson & Johnson, and Johnson & Johnson pledged to produce 100 million doses of vaccine by the end of June. However, a New York Times report said that they're about 2 months behind schedule. Again, the Astra Zeneca vaccine is already being used in India, Mexico, and the United Kingdom. Are these vaccines effective? Well, the Johnson & Johnson is saying its vaccine is 90% effective. AstraZeneca is saying its vaccine is 70% effective, which most scientists like Dr. Fauci say that's still very good because the flu vaccine is 40 to 50% effective against preventing flu. Are these vaccines safe? I know that's probably the most important question that you want to know. Well, the AstraZeneca vaccine had 3 highly publicized cases of something called transverse myelitis, which they paused the clinical trials and they reviewed the data. So what is transverse myelitis? It's a rare, autoimmune-like condition where the body attacks the nerves of the spinal cord and the peripheral, the nerves of the spinal cord. And you can have weakness and loss of sensation and part autonomic dysfunction, like the part of the nervous system that controls digestion and elimination. So this transverse myelitis is a serious condition. They did investigate this. 2 of the cases were felt to be not associated with the vaccine, and 1 relationship remains possible. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine safety data from one of its clinical trial researchers was just published in the January 13th issue of the New England Journal of Medicine, and the most common adverse effects were fatigue, headache, muscle soreness, and injection site pain and fever. So that's the update on the 2 new vaccines in the pipeline, AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson. The key takeaways is that they are different than the messenger RNA vaccines. They're very different. They're cheaper. They last longer. They don't require such cold conditions for storage. They have very similar adverse safety side effects profile. And again, they're going to be reviewed by the FDA. So I hope that's been helpful. Pretty soon you might become a vaccine expert, right? Just kidding. All right, this is Dr. Johnson. My views are my own. Stay safe, folks, and have a blessed day.